Welcome to the timeline window and playback tutorial. If you have not watched the Quick Start tutorial, I suggest you watch it first to learn about Dance Designer's basic features before using the more advanced ones. This tutorial will take you through the basic features and functions on the timeline. The timeline window is where you view, playback, and edit audio, video, and dancer tracks. It gives you a visual representation of your media and your current playback location. Let's get started looking at the layout of the timeline. I have started a new dance, added a music file, a video file, and 2 dancers. First, let's zoom in so we can see all of the detail on the tracks. Down the left side of the timeline are the headers for each track. At the top is time, next are the counts, then markers, music, video, and dancers. Each track has a lock button, a mute button, and a collapse expand button. The lock button is used when you don't want to accidentally edit a track. You know the track is locked by the red hash marks across the track and the lock icon is closed. When you mute, there is an X over the speaker icon which mutes only that particular track. If you want to mute all tracks, that is done by using the Master Mute button on the top right of the program window. The Collapse Expand button reduces and expands the height of a track. There are global Collapse Expand buttons at the top of the track headers that will collapse and expand all of the tracks at once. This is useful if you have a lot of dancers and want to see more dancer tracks on the timeline window without scrolling. Let's take a look at the controls on the timeline. The cursor bar is the red vertical line with the blue handle at the top. When you put your mouse over the handle, you can click and drag the cursor bar along the timeline. You will notice that your video and path will play back as you move the cursor bar. This is called scrubbing through the dance. As you do this, you will see that the time window at the top of your screen will display the time of the cursor's current position in minutes, seconds, and hundredths of a second. Another way to move the cursor bar is by clicking on the time track. Click anywhere on the time track and the cursor bar will jump to that location. The last way you can move your cursor bar along the timeline is by using the fast forward and rewind buttons. The current location of the cursor bar is where the music will begin playback when you press play. When you are zoomed in, you may need to use the scroll bar to display portions of the timeline not currently in view. The scroll bar is at the bottom of the timeline window. When I click and drag the scroll bar, it quickly moves along the timeline. I can then click on the time track and my cursor will jump to that location. You can also use the position of the cursor bar to drop markers. Markers are useful for helping you remember locations either for editing, choreography notes, or rehearsal playback. By clicking the Add Marker button, the program adds a marker at the location of the cursor bar. Markers allow you to skip to different points in your music. If you click Skip Forward or Skip Back, the cursor bar will jump to each of the markers on the timeline. If you put your cursor bar between 2 markers and click the Loop Between Markers button at the top of the program window, pressing play will loop between those 2 markers. You can select the Loop button at the top of the program window and your dance will continue repeating until you click pause. This is very useful in rehearsal so you don't have to fast forward or rewind to find different locations in your music. You can also move and edit your markers. To move your marker, click and drag it along the timeline. To edit your markers, right-click and select Edit. Type to name your marker. You can hover your mouse over the marker to display the marker name. Another useful rehearsal playback tool is track speed. This allows you to change the speed of all the tracks on the timeline window. You can speed up and slow down your music in class or rehearsal without changing the pitch. When you want to edit the counts, music, video, or dancer tracks, select a section of the track. Click and drag your mouse along the timeline, highlighting a section of the track. If you need to extend the selected section, hold Control, click and drag either end of the selected section. This selection process works for all tracks. You will notice that the top left window shows which track is currently active. When I select the Counts track, the window changes to Counts. When I select the Music track, it will change to Music. When you have multiple music, video, and dancer tracks, it shows which track is currently active. This helps when you are editing, as it is important to know which track is the active track. Fading and deleting are two basic music editing functions. First, I will show you how to fade. I'm going to select the first 8 counts of the music track. If I click Fade Up, this will fade the selected area of the music track. Now I'm going to show you how to delete a portion of the music track. I'm going to select the third count of 8. If I click Delete, this will delete the selected area of the music track. For any editing action you want to undo, click the Undo button to remove the last editing action. You can watch the beats and counts and music editing tutorials to learn more about the advanced music editing features. Thank you for watching the timeline window and playback tutorial.